In a world of constant struggle and pain, where survival is the only choice and you can either fight or die, the story begins in a massive facility surrounded by an endless desert of sand. A single bridge provides the only entry point. Inside, chaos reigns, and the signs of a brutal battle are everywhere. Screams and desperate cries for help echo through a vast hall, mingling with the sickening splatter of blood on the walls. Bodies litter the ground, some torn apart and others barely recognizable. A woman charges forward with a battle cry, but a monstrous claw slices through the air, severing her arm before she can even scream. Another man, wide-eyed with terror, fires a desperate bolt of electricity while begging for his life. It's no use. The creature charges forward, slicing the man cleanly in half with a deadly swing of its tail. The creature then turns its attention to a man swinging a massive hammer and decapitates him with one swift swipe of its blade-like claws. The monster moves at an incredible speed, almost invisible to the naked eye. Its claws and agility prove to be too much for the warriors to handle, and one by one they fall, sliced apart left and right. This is where the protagonist, Jong Hyuk, is introduced. But I'm going to call him John. He orders his allies to stick together, warning them that the creature is picking them off one by one. A black-haired girl, her hands glowing with icy magic, steps forward and casts a powerful spell, freezing the creature in place. This is when everyone gets a proper look at the monster, a grotesque, muscular humanoid with no eyes, powerful hind legs, and blade-like claws protruding from its forearms. Its grotesquely large, exposed brain has no skull protecting it, and intestines hang from its mouth as it holds a severed head in one hand. The black-haired girl's magic is barely holding the monster, and she shouts at a man named Steven to hurry. Two men step forward to attack. Steven, a bare-chested man covered in tattoos, and Wade, a man with white dreadlocks. Steven barks an order at Wade to move aside. But despite their tension, they move in sync, slicing off the monster's arms at the biceps and disarming it. The creature lets out a deafening scream of pain.
The other warriors, who had been too scared to join the fight, see this as their chance. With the creature's claws and speed neutralized, they believe it is finally vulnerable and charge in, ignoring John's warning. John's eyes widen as he senses something is wrong and shouts for them to retreat, but it is too late. As the warriors get within range, the creature's severed arms sprout several long, writhing tentacles. The tentacles lash out with deadly precision, cutting through the charging warriors like a hot knife through butter. Bodies are torn in half, heads go flying, and the hall descends into a total massacre. Not a single one of them survives. With the warriors dead, the monster breaks free from its icy prison, and the room falls silent. Just as all hope seems lost, John steps forward, his presence commanding the attention of everyone. He firmly orders them to step back. I'll handle the rest. There's no need for anyone else to die. He crouches low, holding his massive sword tightly, the determination in his eyes burning brighter than ever as he prepares to charge. John dashes forward, closing the distance between himself and the creature in an instant. The monster lashes out with its tentacles, but John is ready, dodging most of the strikes with ease and blocking or parrying the ones he can't avoid. He realizes he cannot drag out the fight and needs to end it quickly to conserve stamina. He activates a skill called Heist. As soon as the skill activates, John's movements become even faster and more precise, with his agility and nimbleness on another level. John dashes, side flips, and sidesteps with such precision that the monster cannot keep up and begins to panic. Desperate, the creature plays its next card, and its exposed brain morphs to reveal a hidden eye. The eye glows and releases a powerful energy blast at point-blank range. Everyone assumes John is gone, but he had anticipated this and leaped high into the air, avoiding the blast completely. From the ground, it looks as though John was engulfed in the blast, but above the monster, he is still there, descending slowly and deliberately. John falls toward the creature, which freezes in confusion. Before the monster can react, John activates another skill, Sword of Light, also known as Julian's Sword. His massive blade glows with an intense white light, and with one quick, decisive motion, John brings the sword down, slicing cleanly through the monster from head to toe. The creature's body crumples into the ground in a pool of green blood, completely motionless. The room falls silent for a moment before cheers erupt from the survivors, relieved that the nightmare is finally over. A system notification appears. Mission accomplished. Kill the fast one. Reward, 10 souls. John, breathing heavily, slides his massive sword back into his sheath and tells the others to divide the souls and heal their wounds as they need to leave before the monster respawns. As the group assesses the damage, Wade, standing beside John, lets out a low whistle and says, "Man, that thing was cunning." He then grins at John and says, "But you were amazing." John, ever modest, simply nods and motions for everyone to start moving. John, not wanting to dwell on it, reminds everyone to reorganize and prepare to move out.
Before he can finish, his body tenses, and a look of disbelief crosses his face as a sharp pain shoots through him. It was a betrayal. John's friends shout his name in frantic concern. The man holding the sword leans in with a smug smile and thanks John for his efforts so far. But before the man can finish his gloating monologue, John's hand shoots up and grabs his attacker's head with a vice-like grip. John twists his neck and, through gritted teeth, informs the man of his impending doom. The betrayer's arrogance crumbles into panic as he begs for mercy, saying he was just following orders. When he realizes there is no hope, he turns to Wade and screams, "Help me!" Wade doesn't hesitate, and with a clean, calculated strike, his blade severs John's left hand, the one gripping the betrayer's head. John falls back as more attackers rush in, stabbing him repeatedly in the chest. Blood pours from his wounds as he drops to his knees, his strength leaving him. Confused and gasping for breath, John manages to choke out a single question: why? Wade steps forward, smirking, and says, "It's simple. We want your soul, your rewards, everything you've been hoarding. You're no longer needed. We'll make it on our own." John, his vision blurring, lets out a pained grin and growls, "You're all too weak. Without me, you'll meet a fate worse than mine." Wade scoffs and laughs at John, saying, "You're a dying man, John. We'll figure it out just fine without you." As Wade speaks, two other men drag forward the lifeless bodies of Stephen and the black-haired girl and dump them in front of John, their faces cold and lifeless. One of the men says, "These were your friends, but not anymore." John stares at the bodies, his heart sinking, and in a low, trembling voice, he utters their names. Anger bubbles up inside him, raw and unrelenting. Seeing John motionless, the betrayers assume he has given up and begin to close in on him. Wade, drunk on the triumph of his ambush, starts to gloat, mockingly saying, "You couldn't even save your gang." I feign regret as he adds, "I really hate that women had to get involved in all this, but hey, it is what it is." Then, with a smug smile, he leans closer to John and whispers, "Don't worry. You'll be joining them soon enough." A man holding a spiked baseball bat, who had been given the role of executioner, steps forward to deliver the final blow. As he approaches, he talks about how he always wanted to be a baseball player and how he never thought he'd get to swing for the fences like this. John, mumbling under his breath, thinks, "I can't let it end like this." The executioner raises the bat over his shoulder, grins, and shouts, "Home run!" He swings the bat down, but just as it is about to connect, John moves. In a final, feral act of defiance, John surges forward like a mad dog that has lost all reason. Before the executioner can react, John sinks his teeth into the man's neck, tearing into his flesh and ripping out his arteries. Blood sprays everywhere, and the room descends into chaos once more, as everyone freezes, stunned by the sudden turn of events. Even with his body broken and riddled with stab wounds, John manages to launch a successful attack. Wade, seeing the situation unfold, shouts at his men to attack John together, trying to overwhelm him before he can use his skills. But John fights back with unrelenting fury, cutting down anyone who dares to approach him. Heads roll and torsos are severed as John becomes a whirlwind of vengeance, ignoring the pain from his injuries. With each swing of his massive sword, John rains down vengeance on his enemies. But the numbers prove to be too much. Another blade pierces John's back, and he staggers forward, coughing up blood, but still refuses to fall. He swings his sword behind him, and with a single powerful strike, decapitates his attacker. In creating this opening, however, he leaves himself exposed. A man in a gray vest charges in, taking advantage of the blind spot, and swiftly severs John's remaining good hand, leaving him completely defenseless.
Wade, seeing the opportunity, rushes forward, determined to end John's life once and for all. He raises his sword, aims for John's neck, and the blade slices cleanly through, severing John's head. John's head flies into the air, his eyes wide with shock, before landing on the ground and rolling to a stop. It is finally over. Wade stares at John's lifeless body, breathing heavily, and mutters, "That guy was a monster. He just wouldn't die, not until the very end." The man in the gray vest shifts uneasily and asks nervously, "Are we sure he's dead? What if he comes back?" Wade smirks and shakes his head, saying, "Relax. There's no skill that lets someone reattach their head. He's done. For good this time." The group begins to assess the damage John caused in his final moments. Despite being outnumbered, wounded, and betrayed, he managed to upset the balance of their group. Many of their strongest fighters are now dead, and their numbers are severely depleted. A grim thought hangs over the survivors. Maybe John was better than us. Maybe he could have ended this hell. But the choice had already been made, and there was no undoing what they had done. Seeing no other option, they gathered John's soul as loot and prepare to move on to the next floor. This is the nature of their world. There is no escape, and the only way forward is to keep fighting. John's severed head lies on the floor, his lifeless eyes staring into the void. But in the stillness, a faint chuckle escapes his lips. Though his vision blurs and his thoughts begin to fade, John's mind races with frustration and regret. He thinks of his friends who fought and died by his side, and of the traitors who cut him down. He regrets not killing them all when he had the chance. We were so close. We almost made it, he thinks. His consciousness fades into darkness, and then a bright white light pierces through the void. John's eyes snap open, and he realizes he isn't dead. He finds himself lying on the cold, hard floor of a small, empty room, wearing plain gray clothes. He slowly sits up, and confusion and disbelief cloud his mind. He recognizes this place. It is where everything had started. John clenches his fists, trembling as the realization hits him. This isn't heaven. This isn't death. This is hell, and I'm still trapped in it. His anger and frustration boil over as he stares at the empty room, knowing that death was not an escape. John grits his teeth, his resolve hardening. How am I going to escape this time? And with that, the cycle begins anew.